If you do not want to be seen, then you should turn off the video camera of your device. You also want to be sure that you are on speaker view and not on gallery view, so that you can see what Bill is filming for us this evening. You can click on the speaker view button located in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. We are going to mute all of your microphones in order to keep the flow of the tour. If a question comes up, then you're welcome to type that into the chat box. At the end of our tour, which lasts approximately 75 minutes, we will do a 15-minute question and answer period. And at this point, I'm going to take this down and give Bill a chance to introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Florence. Welcome to Ciclismo Classico. Welcome to Lauren. I'm going to give you a shout out because you are the sort of sponsoring this, and that is terrific. So we're going to try to do the best thing that we can. It is definitely a beautiful day here in Florence, a beautiful fall afternoon. I had my jacket on. I took it off because it's just too nice out to have a jacket. So who else? Glenn. Hey, Glenn, how are you doing? I know you're out there. I hope you're out there. I hope you're not late. We're going to have a great time this evening. So this is a unique experience. This is a virtually live tour. And one of my favorite things is, like, sometimes things happen that are unexpected. And that's what I call a virtually live moment. So we deal with them when they happen. So and on one hand, I kind of hope it happens. But on the other hand, it's like, uh-oh, what do we do here? So let's see what happens. Let's get going. Are you ready, Birgit? Should we get going?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. I'm still letting people in. Let me show them what a great view we have here. Look at that.
Fantastic.
There we go. Isn't that
so
awesome?
We're going to talk about this view in just a moment, but let me bring up a map so that we can show our guests where we are tonight, or where you are standing tonight. So folks, this is the historic center of Florence. The part that's above the Arno River is where Florence was founded originally in the 1st century before Christ by the Romans. Down here below the Arno River, which divides the city, that is the Oltrarno, the other side of the Arno River, which was settled in the 4th and 5th century after Christ. Bill is now standing in Piazzale Michelangelo, which is a beautiful viewpoint, which was put together and constructed the way we have it today in the late 1800s, when for a short while, Florence was the capital of Italy between 1865 and 1870. And in a little while, once we've shown you the view, Bill is going to move with his bike further south from Piazzale Michelangelo. So he's going to go down into this area and we'll head up the hill to Pian De Gelati. So I'm going to take this down so that we can see the beautiful view. And Bill is filming the city of Florence, which is below Piazzale Michelangelo. So we see the Arno River in front of the tower over on the right. We also see how Florence is located in a valley. It's surrounded by hillsides. And on one hillside there in the distance, and Bill should be going a little bit to the right for a moment, because I want to show you what's on that hillside, where you see the saddle in the distance. That is the town of Fiesole. And maybe Bill can point with his finger exactly right there in the saddle between those two little hills. That's where the small town of Fiesole is located, population approximately 15,000. Fiesole is an Etruscan settlement, which goes back to the 8th century before Christ. The Etruscans are the indigenous people of Tuscany, and they like to build on top of hills because they were easier to defend. Then I would like for Bill to go a little bit further to the right for a moment so that I can show you one of the towers of the city wall, Torre della Zecca, which is a tower that stood close to where the mint used to be. In the mint in 1252, the gold florin was coined, a very important currency back in the Middle Ages. So there's the tower. And from that tower, in a semicircular way, a city wall went around the city of Florence. And again, Bill, if you can just outline it with your finger. So the city wall went all around the city of Florence, built in the late 1200s, early 1300s, when Florence had a population of 100,000 people. Now, on the side where Bill is pointing now, that city wall is no longer there. It was torn down in the late 1800s, more or less around the time period when Florence was the capital, because everything was supposed to be new and modern, so old things were torn down. However, that city wall is still present on the side where Bill is standing in the Oltrarno, and in a little while we are going to see it. There is still approximately 3 miles of that city wall left on the side where Bill is standing. So we're going to get to these individual monuments in just a moment. We're going to start over on the right-hand side. I already showed you one of the towers, Torre della Zecca, and then we want to focus in onto a dome which has a turquoise color. That is the dome of the Synagogue of Florence, a monumental synagogue which was built after Italy was founded as a country in 1861. Building period of the synagogue, 1874 to 1882, when this beautiful synagogue was inaugurated. It's one of the most beautiful in all of Italy, in my opinion. So when you come to Florence, you definitely want to make time to go and see it. Out of 380,000 people that live in Florence, approximately 900 are Jewish citizens. I'm going to turn it over to you, Bill, because I know that you like to explain another religious structure that's coming up a little bit further on the left-hand side.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. That was really great. I used to live up in Fiesole. Lauren, I used to work for Lauren as a Ciclismo guide. It's your fault that I'm stuck here in Florence and in Italy, Lauren. You're the one that did it to me. And I used to actually live up in Fiesole for about 7 years or so. So my heart is in Fiesole, actually. Getting back to our tour, which we're going to get out of Florence quickly and get out into the Tuscan countryside. Many of you have been here. Some of you maybe have not. So we got Santa Croce Church, Santa Cruz, San Qua, Holy Cross, the Church of the Holy Cross. And the cool thing about that church, there's two things. One is that it has where Michelangelo is buried in there. It is Michelangelo's in there. Who else is in there? Galileo. For you political scientists, you have Machiavelli that's in there. And we have Rossini. So you opera fans, we also have that guy in there. Another very, very cool thing about the church right here is they now do a game called Calcio Storico, which is something that some of you might not know about unless you've been here on June 24th. It's a celebration of San Giovanni, which is St. John the Baptist, which is the patron saint of Florence. And right there in front of the church, they fill that all up with some sand, and they have a game called Calcio Storico, which is a combination of rugby, football, wrestling, soccer, hockey, what else? Any other violent sport that you can think of, this happens out there. And this comes from mid 1500s. I'm bad with dates, so Birgit will help me out with these. But they use this game for the armies to stay in shape, to kind of practice, to be tough. And it started because Charles V was laying siege to Florence. And so because they were stuck inside Florence, they said, you know what are we going to do to pass the time? We'll play this game and show them, we're not bothered with you guys. We're going to hang out and play games and train like this anyways. So Calcio Storico, the whole town is a pageantry and they're all in their old costumes. It's really great. It's a really great, a great event to be here for. Yeah, look at those guys out there. One of the rules that they made it was about 5 years ago, is they said you cannot be serving a jail sentence and play the game. So we're not giving you the get out of jail card, free card to come and play Calcio Storico for us, because they actually used to do that. All right, there's Galileo for some reason, which we will talk about later. Galileo, I don't think he played Calcio Storico, Birgit. He was looking at the stars too much.
Push the wrong
all right,
button,
so let's keep going. That's all right. All right, where are we going now?
So let's go further to the left. We come to another religious structure. That is our cathedral, the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore. The Italians don't say cattedrale for the bishop's seat. They refer to it as Il Duomo. So this is Il Duomo, and Il Duomo has a dome, which is very famous. The dome that was constructed by Filippo Brunelleschi between 1420 and 1436. Filippo Brunelleschi, he intuitively knew that the structure had to be light because The Florentines were afraid that a big dome might crush the church underneath. So what he did was he built two shells, an inside shell and an outside shell, with a space of approximately 1 to 1.5 meters, so about 6 feet between the two of them. And that kept everything light because there's a lot of air up there as well. And he built the dome in only 16 years, 1420 to 1436. It was amazing. It's still there after 600 years, Brunelleschi's dome. This Wednesday, so day after tomorrow, we're going to do a classical city tour of Florence when we will elaborate a little bit more on the cathedral and Brunelleschi's dome. So please come and join us for that as well at the same time. Then let's go a little bit further to the left.
Very good.
Yes.
Can I interrupt you?
Sure.
You know what's something? Okay, so you want to know what happens a lot of times, and I still do it today, because the cathedral is called the Duomo. Many people refer to the dome as the Duomo. So, oh, we're going to go to the top of the Duomo. Well, you are, but you're talking about the dome. I fall into that trap all the time. So the Duomo is the cathedral, the whole cathedral. Sorry, I keep putting my hand in front there. The Duomo is the whole cathedral. The cupola of the Duomo is the cupola. So there you go. All right, where are we going to next? We're going left, aren't we? Okay, yeah, right over there.
Yes, Bill, tell our guests about the town hall.
Oh, okay, my turn. So I'm still admitting people. Come on, everybody, why you guys are Italian? You're all latecomers. All right, so this is called Palazzo Vecchio. And Palazzo Vecchio is probably one of the, well, no, actually it's the cupola and the Duomo that are most famous, but the Palazzo Vecchio is called Palazzo Vecchio because it was the old town hall, and that was where the Medicis lived. So the Medicis were living in there, and then what they did was they decided to move across the river, okay, with that bridge, which is what Birgit's going to talk about in a second. And when they moved out of there and they moved across the bridge into Palazzo Pitti and Giardino Bobboli, the townspeople, they didn't want to call that the municipality. It was just didn't fit. So they called it Palazzo Vecchio, the old palace, where the Medicis used to live. In front of the old palace, we have Piazza de la Signoria, and that is a wonderful place. It's got some great sculptures out there. It's got the Biancone Neptune, the fountain out there that, as Birgit said, if you come on that other tour, we see that. It's got Perseus, which, because I've been doing these tours and I've learned about it from Birgit, I'm a big fan of. It's really great. And Rape of the Sabians, I've never looked at it. I don't look at it the same as I used to. It's pretty cool. All right, so let us hear the bells.
Beautiful, yes.
Hear the bells?
Yeah, we hear them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they're not too loud, or I have to shut them out.
No, absolutely not. No. So let's go further to the left, and we actually cross the river now because we are going to go over the Ponte Vecchio to the side where Bill is, because in a minute we're ready to leave Piazzale Michelangelo. So there's the bridge, which many of you have heard of, or maybe you've even walked across it. It's a landmark in Florence. It's called Ponte Vecchio. Ponte means bridge and Vecchio means old. It does go back to the 14th century. Originally, butchers and fishmongers had their workshops on the bridge, and they used the Arno River as a trash can to throw all the meat carcasses and the fish bones in there. But then a corridor was built, a passageway, which you can see where those small windows are, from Palazzo Pitti, where the Medici were starting to live in the late 1500s, to the town hall, where they were working from. So they had a private passageway, and now the Duke walked across the bridge on a daily basis. In the summer especially, the smell of the butchers and fishmongers down below was really bad. So eventually he decided to raise the rent, and the only ones that could afford the rent on the bridge were the goldsmiths. So the goldsmiths came to the bridge at that point, and they have been on the bridge ever since. So that is why you find all the gold shops on the Ponte Vecchio now. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful sunset, but we are going to turn away from Piazzale Michelangelo now, right? One more view across the city. Really well done, this viewpoint by Giuseppe Poggi, who was the architect who put it together, who built it back in the late 1800s. Piazzale Michelangelo. And I'm going to tell you, while Bill is showing you the view, why it's called Piazzale Michelangelo. He'll show us in a moment, because in the center of the Piazzale, there is a statue of David, a copy of the statue of David. And that copy is made from bronze. It was originally the copy that was supposed to substitute the original, which used to stand in front of the town hall. But when it was finished, they said, well, maybe not, it's bronze. It really should be marble like the original. So they made another copy, which is now in front of the city hall. The original is in the gallery of the Academy. And the bronze copy was placed right in the center of Piazzale Michelangelo. Piazza means square, Piazzale, Ale means big square.
Okay.
Now, Bill is going to get on his handy bike.
I'm going to get on my bike, and Ciclismo Classico, it's an electric bike, but hey, I'm working, okay? And the other thing is, people are going to complain about, they're going to say, Bill, where's your helmet? Well, I got these, I'm working, I got these headphones on, and the helmet won't fit under the the helmet won't fit over the headphones. All right, I'm ready. Let's get out of here before it gets too late.
Okay, but normally you would wear one, right? You always wear a helmet.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, definitely. And
so we're leaving.
It's weird if you see somebody riding without a helmet.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Go
Even
ahead,
in Italy.
Go ahead, Birgit.
Well, we're leaving Piazzale Michelangelo, and I want to give you a little bit of a personal viewpoint here, because Piazzale Michelangelo and what you see, or what we just saw, plus the views that are coming up on the right-hand side, always now reminds me of when the lockdown in Italy finished, which was at the beginning of May. And one of the first bike rides that I did with my family, we're also big time bike riders, my children and my husband, we came up to Piazzale Michelangelo and we rode along the Viale, so this panoramic road, and those were the views that we saw. And I like to mention this because we had been inside literally for 2 months. And then we came out in May. So we went in when it was winter, we came out when it was spring. And it was very consoling to think that at least nature had done its course and run its course and was just changing just the same, like it always has. So look at that view. We have the typical Tuscan countryside here with the cypress trees, with the umbrella pines, with that umbrella-like canopy. And then in the distance, we want to show you what I had mentioned earlier, part of the ancient city wall, which dates back to the late 1200s, early 1300s. There you can still see it. The city wall interrupted here and there by some of these watchtowers. And then go to the left a little bit, Bill. At the top of the hill is a fortress which was built by the Medici family in the mid-1500s. It's called Fortress of Belvedere, meaning beautiful view. There are 2 fortresses in town that guarded the city against enemies that might be attacking Florence. So Forte di Belvedere, which is on top of the hill, this one, and then we have one close to where the train station is nowadays, Fortezza da Basso. Bill, do you want to share your story about the walls?
Oh yeah, my story. Oops, sorry, scooter went by. Okay, so those walls, if you look at them, okay, they're very narrow. They were built in 1250, so the early Middle Ages, right? And in that time, sorry, I'm moving around a little bit. Yeah, so they were built a long time ago. So they were built before the advent of gunpowder and cannonballs and those sorts of things. So they built them pretty narrow. But what happened is during that siege that we were talking about, which was Charles V, what happened was they had cannonballs and they had guns. So one thing was, as you already mentioned, those towers were much taller. So those towers used to be much taller. And then after the whole siege was over, they decided, you know what, this is too dangerous. We got to chop our towers down. So they made the towers much smaller, like you mentioned already. The other thing, what happened is since these guys started launching cannonballs at the wall, they start making holes in it. Well, who should come up with the great idea? Who other than Michelangelo? So what he does is he turns around and he says, you have to get everybody in town to bring me their mattresses, your bed mattresses. Piled them up, he tied ropes onto them, and what he did was he tied them and he flipped them over so they were on this side of the wall, so that when they shot the cannonballs at the wall, that would dampen the blow and Michelangelo, yay, Florence's hero, saved the day and the city. That's a true story.
Yeah.
Not one that I always make up. All right, where are we going?
Okay, all right. So go ahead and continue to ride up the hill. And then in a moment, you are going to have to cross the street. So as Bill is riding up the hill, probably down below, you just saw these trees that had a little bit of a silvery glow to them. Those are olive trees. And we are going to talk about olive trees a little bit more in a little while. You see how the leaves are changing, not as vibrant as New England, for example, but still we think it's very pretty, and Florence is very pretty in the fall and of course also in the spring when the flowers are blooming. So now let's focus in on a church that is on top of this hill, the Church of San Mignato. Goes back to the 11th century, that's when it was started. And if you can focus in a little bit, Bill, then I can say something about the type of architecture that was used here.
Okay. Yeah, hold on. Let me.
Okay, so thank you. So you see the church in the upper left-hand corner. We just see the triangular shape, which is the top of the facade. San Mignato was sponsored financially by a guild, by a corporation in Florence that was responsible for importing wool and exporting the finished fabric, because Florence was working in the wool trade. That is what brought wealth in the 12 and 1300s. So the Calimala Guild, who as their symbol had an eagle that has bales of fabric in the claws, we see that symbol at the very top to indicate that it was the Calimala Guild who sponsored the building of San Mignato. And the style that was used is the Romanesque style. So 11th century, it got started. It was the first time period when architects went back to the Roman era and borrowed from the Roman era, such as round arches and something that looks a little bit like a temple front almost, and then columns and capitals. So Romanesque style, San Mignato. And then we also see underneath San Mignato that darker wall. That is one of the walls which Michelangelo had constructed against the siege of Charles V in the year 1529-30, which again, we will talk about a little bit later. So Bill should cross the street now, and then I can tell you also where the church got its name from. Church is
and this is always scary, so hold on.
Yeah, you be careful, okay? Always
I don't want a virtually dead moment here.
No,
okay,
no,
got it.
definitely not. Okay.
All right.
All right. So the church is named after an Armenian prince whose name was Minas. Minas was a Christian, but he was also a soldier in the Roman army. We're talking 250 AD, when it was dangerous to be a Christian, because until 313 and the edict of Emperor Constantine, which gave freedom of religion to all the religions in the Roman Empire, if you were a Christian, you were persecuted. So sure enough, Minas, who was very open about his faith, his Christian faith, was put on trial when the emperor came to Florence, or Florencia as it was called back then, in 250, and he was sentenced to be thrown to the beasts in the amphitheater of Florencia. However, a panther that was called upon him refused to devour him, at which point Decius, the emperor, had him beheaded. According to tradition, apparently then, Minas picked up his head, walked across the Arno River, up the hill where he had lived as a hermit in times before, and that's where he collapsed and broke down and died. His followers then created a shrine in that spot, which later on became Saint Minas, or in Italian, San Mignato. Beautiful views here over the Tuscan countryside, the olive trees. Then let's go to the right, because there's a traditional tree that really marks and is very characteristic for the Tuscan countryside, the cypress tree. Cypress trees can become up to 115 feet tall, can become up to 1,000 years old. They are connected with mourning. So here in this case, they actually stand behind a cemetery the cemetery of San Mignato, where a number of famous people are buried. One of them is Carlo Lorenzini, better known as Carlo Collodi, who is the writer of a famous book called Le Avventure di Pinocchio, The Adventures of Pinocchio. So he's buried in that cemetery. As Bill comes to the corner here, we can focus in on a structure in the distance, which is a tower surrounded by a medieval structure. The whole thing is called Torre del Gallo. Gallo means rooster, but it was actually the name of a family, the Del Gallo family, who had this property built in the 1200s. However, in 1280, they had to leave the area because they happened to be on the wrong side of the political spectrum. They were so-called Ghibellines, meaning that they supported the Holy Roman Emperor and not the Pope. And Florence was really a city loyal to the Pope. So all the Ghibellines were sent to exile, the property fell into ruin, and only in the early 1900s was it built up and refurbished in the neo-medieval style by an antiques dealer called Stefano Bardini, who then also lived there for a while. The umbrella pines, then the structure that you see there, that's the International School of Florence, ISF. That's where lots of American families have their children go to school. This is a private school. It's actually quite expensive. And also some of the wealthier Italian families like the Antinori, wine families and so on, they also send their children to the ISF, International School of Florence, where the teaching is done primarily in English and only a little bit in Italian. All right. So, Bill, what do you have for us? Is this a one-way or two-way street here that you're riding along?
This is actually a two-way street. Hold on, someone else is, I gotta let him in. And so this is actually a two-way street right here. And somebody I saw put up a little note that said the Italians are so nice to bicyclists. And that is really true. It's a pleasure to ride your bike out here. It's never scary. So I'm gonna come up to a spot up here, which is actually pretty narrow. This is enough room. There's enough room on this road for people to stop, for people not to have to stop. But as you can see, I gotta go slower right here because there's a few little potholes coming. And I have to be careful that no one's coming zipping around the corner. And in these little narrow roads, they'll drive actually pretty fast because they know how to do it. Oh, look at that. Actually, I was just saying that because actually not too many people. See, I just squeak by, nobody says anything. So let's just say I was a car. What do you do then, right? I can hear you guys asking yourselves that question. Whoever has, not the right of way, but whoever has the closest little pull-out spot, they're gonna go to that pull-out spot. So they're gonna back up. So right here's a pull-out spot. So if I had a car, since I was coming down and I don't really have a pull-out spot, that lady would have said, put up her hand and said, that's okay, I got it. I'm just gonna back up here. I'll back up. And I'm like, cool, thanks. She'll back up, I'll go by, deal is done. Nobody's honking, nobody's yelling, nobody's pulling out guns. It's just the way they do it here. Now, the other thing that I'm doing right now, which you guys don't do, is I'm riding up a one-way street the wrong way. Bicycles can do that here in Florence. And what do I see? I see one of my favorite plants, Birgit. Can I stop here and tell them about it?
Please do, yes.
Okay, this, you know what, there's actually one up ahead, but I was planning for this a little bit. This is a caper bush, okay? And the leaves actually look, when it's not cold out, look like these fleshy little round leaves. And this is where capers come from. Does anybody know what a caper is? If you do, type it in. I will be very impressed. If you know actually what a caper is. It's not an olive, it's not a seed, it's not a berry. No, close, Lena, close. It's not a flower, it's a flower bud. I will show you the fruit. I will show you the fruit of the caper. It's actually a flower bud. We had one just the other day out here. If I wanted to come, I've seen little ladies standing by these bushes talking and taking off the flower buds and putting them into their pockets. So they're gonna come out just like this and they're gonna pull off a little flower bud, and Birgit's gonna pull up the picture here in a second, and they're gonna take these little flower buds and they're gonna put them in a little basket or their pockets or whatever. And then they're going to take them home and put them under salt, or they're going to put them under vinegar, and they're going to pickle them. There you go. There's a little guys right there. So there's the flower bud. You don't pick it. What's it going to do? It's going to turn into this beautiful flower that we see right there. Now you got your pistil and your stamen, right? What happens when a little bee comes along and pollinates it is it's going to, yeah, they're great with bagels, lox, cream cheese, yes. That little stamen, how many of you like these guys? That little stamen in the middle that's got the little bulb on the tip? Well, what's going to happen is bees or bugs or whatever are going to come along and pollinate it, and you are going to then get the caper berry. And if you come off, Birgit, I think I can focus in on the caper berry. Hold on, I got to go to mode here for a second. That is the caper berry. That is what's going to come out of the caper. That is the fruit of the caper flower. You can take that and you can put that under vinegar, and yeah, then they use them sort of like as cocktail pickles and things like that. I don't see them in the United States much, but if you go to aperitivo here, you will find them on the counter sometimes. Aperitivo, if some of you know that, it's cocktail hour here in Italy. Okay, so that's kind of cool, huh? Good thing we just saw that riding by. All right, let's keep going.
And there are plenty of them coming out, just growing out of these walls, all over the place.
Lots of them.
Yeah, it's really
it's hard. It's hard to get them to grow. See, there's another one just on the right. It's hard to get them to grow. And I've heard to get them to grow, you have to take some of those seeds. Some of the seeds, which are very small, and they look like poppy seeds, they're a little bit bigger. And you have to put it inside a fig. So you put it inside the fig, and then you stuff it into a crack. You don't have to water it.
Okay, we're losing you. Let's see where you are, Bill.
Have you got me?
Yeah, now we have you again. Okay.
You got me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. Okay, so, all right, well, let's just keep going. Sorry about that. I lost you. That will happen because it's we're just using our technology of Wi-Fi and cellular service.
Big walls around you. Yeah. So we are traveling through Tuscany now, folks, and Tuscany is actually a region. So the United States, for example, has states. Canada has provinces. In Italy, the country is divided up into 20 regions, and Tuscany is one of them with a population of 3.8 million. Of course, Bill and I think that Tuscany is the most beautiful of the 20 regions, which we're going to prove to you, because wherever you go, check it out on the right-hand side, awesome view, once again, in the evening light.
Yeah. Oh, it's great.
So rolling hillsides, exactly, approximately, well, 3/4 of Tuscany are definitely hillsides. There are only a few flat spots close to the sea. The sea is there as well, the Tyrrhenian Sea, which is only about an hour and 50 minutes away from the city of Florence. So you can easily go in a day. Has a lot of vacation possibilities. And then, yes?
Sorry, I know you hate being interrupted, but this is something that doesn't happen all the time. See that smoke over there? Mm-hmm. I get lots of people that ask me, what are they burning? What are they burning? They're burning the rubber tires and trash. I'm just kidding. They don't do that here. I let you guys be shocked for a second or two there. They are burning the clippings from the trees because before they harvest all their olives, they'll go through and they'll sort of trim off all the branches that haven't got any fruit on them so that they get out of the way to go and pick the olives, which they're going to be doing in I don't know, a couple of weeks, in about a week or so. All right, sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, that's important information, sure.
Yeah,
that's exactly what's happening. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay, andiamo avanti.
Yeah, so go to the house behind you.
Okay.
In case you were wondering, folks, why we had a picture of Galileo Galilei up there earlier when I happened to push the wrong button. Well, Galileo Galilei sat for a man called Justus Sustermans, who was the portrait painter of the Medici family in the 1600s. And what came out was this painting. So Galileo Galilei, already in his 70s, actually late 60s, 1636. So you can tell that he's already been through the Inquisition down in Rome. He looks very tired. He looks kind of almost over it, like almost fed up with everything that he had to go through. But that was Galileo in 1636. He was born in 1564. So he actually is 72 years old at this point. He would die 6 years later in 1642. He's buried in Santa Croce Church. So now Bill is going up the hill, and while he's doing that, and you can see him riding along, but I am going to bring up another picture because I want to tell you where we are. And then I also want to tell you what happened back in the 1500s, the famous siege. So Bill is basically going up this hill here on the right-hand side, and he's heading toward Torre del Gallo, which we showed you earlier, which here on the map is this little structure. The flag that you see there is the flag of the papal troops, because back in 1529 to 1530, from October to August, Charles V, who was the Holy Roman Emperor, the Emperor of Europe at the time, and Clement VII, who was the Pope back then, they besieged Florence for about 10 months because the Medici family, who had ruled Florence until 1527, had been sent to exile. So Clement VII, who is from the Medici family, is trying to do everything he can, even joining forces with his former enemy, Charles V, to get his family back into Florence as rulers of Florence. Florence at the time was a republic, 1529, 1530. So the city is besieged. The Florentines are able to provide resistance for quite a long time. That's the time period in February of 1530 when the famous football game is played, the famous soccer game, which eventually turned into the historical ball game that is now played every June, just to defy the enemy. But then in August of 1530, the Florentines could no longer resist, so they had to surrender to Charles V and to the Pope. The Pope got his will, and the Medici were reinstated as rulers of Florence. In fact, at that point, they became Dukes of Florence, and later on, Grand Dukes of Florence and Tuscany. And they remained that until 1737, when the main line of the Medici died out. So in the picture, in what Bill is filming for us now, we can just see the top of Torre del Gallo. So he has made it to the top of the hill. Torre del Gallo, rebuilt the way we see it now by Stefano Bardini in the early 1900s. There are a number of little workhouses right in front of it, together with these cypress trees, because they are working on the property right now. Recently, the property was bought by a Russian family, a very wealthy Russian family, who are trying to turn it into some kind of a receptive structure. So some kind of a residence, which means apartments and a bed and breakfast, but everything on a very high level, 4th, 5-star level. So that's what's happening at Torre del Gallo. All right, Bill, I'm going to turn it over to you because I know that in a moment you're going to come to a spot where we have a lovely view over the Tuscan countryside. And go ahead and unmute yourself. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I just wanted to, I wanted to let the people sort of bask in the feel of Tuscany in the silence. There's no cars out here. The sun is setting. It's that magic moment, as somebody said. It's just wonderful. We're gonna have a little bit more light on the next view that we're gonna get, on the next big view. But there's a couple things that I want to point out. There we go. Light's coming in now. So, villa and farmhouse, okay? Some of you, I hope you saw, I sort of focused on that doorway to make a point. That was basically the front entrance to a villa. And I say this because if you're going to come out, Lauren, if you're going to hook these guys up with a villa company, make sure that they're really giving them villas and not farmhouses. Because one time I came out doing a private tour for some family, pulled up all the bikes, and we did our bike ride, our bike tour, and they kept talking about, oh, when we go back to the villa, we're going to do this and do that. But you know, when I pulled up to their what they called villa. I was like, oh, this is a nice place. It's an old casa colonica, which means where the farmers lived. And so they kept talking about the villa this and villa that. And I just had to finally say, guys, like, you know, guys, you're not staying in a villa. You're staying in an old farmhouse is what it is. And I explained to them the difference. Well, they were so crestfallen that I never will do that again. It's happened in other instances. I was like, yes, you're in a wonderful villa, because these guys were bummed out. So I said, hey, go back and get some money back, because they sold you a villa when it's just a farmhouse. It's a really nice farmhouse, but it's just a farmhouse. So the difference between the villa, don't really have any farmhouses. I'll point it out when we get over to the backside a little bit. But the difference is the villa is more decorative. It's the manor house. It's where the landowner lives. You know, he's got no workers in there doing anything like that. And so then you have his overseer that lives in one of the farmhouses, which is pretty close by. And it's usually much bigger and it's much nicer, but it's still a farmhouse. And he will go to the landowner and say, you know, Giuseppe has a bunch of pigs. He wants to farm on our land. Can we do that? And he give you 10 pigs a year. And he says, all right, Giuseppe, a good guy? Sure. So Giuseppe gets a little plot of land. And with that plot of land, he clears it. And the stones that he gets from that land, he uses to build his little house. So that's how these little Tuscan farmhouses came by. And you can, there's definitely a difference. You can tell the difference big time. And I'll point out some of the differences later. Next to the villa, we've got some beautiful, did you talk a lot about the umbrella pines, Birgit?
No, not yet.
Okay, well, the umbrella pines are definitely a typical Mediterranean tree. We see them a lot here in Tuscany. We see a lot of them here, but they're in the Mediterranean basin. And the cool thing about these trees is they are not pruned or trimmed to look that way. That's the way they grow naturally. They are used, you find them a lot on the coast, and they make up what's called a pineta, because they're pine trees, and they have all these broccoli tops. I call them broccoli trees, and they have all these broccoli tops that are kind of touching, and they make a nice shady area with the pine needles that have fallen, like really just literally yards from the shore, yards from the water. So all the Italians in summertime in August go there, they set up their tents, they take their campers, and that's where they spend the summer. The other cool thing about these trees is up in those trees, I can't focus in quite enough, but up in those trees, there are big pine cones, okay? And those big pine cones are gonna fall to the ground. And some little old lady, again, it's little old ladies and little old man, they'll come up and they'll put them in their bags, they take them home, and they get the seeds out from between the leaves of the pine cones. And they take their little hammer and they crack them open. And inside you have the nut. No, it's the other way around. You have the nut, and then inside are the seeds. So they crack them open, and that's where they've got their pine nuts. All right, that's where they get their pine nut seeds. So anyways, so what else have we got? I see someone writing messages. Anybody having a problem with the screen? Just put main speaker, so you don't have to see all the little squares that you're seeing up there. You'll see what I'm seeing. Okay, we have you can see the observatories. Now, even though we've been talking about Galileo, or we will talk about Galileo, no, these weren't his observatories. They're more for students and teaching. I'm sure they were used at one time, but they're more for students and teaching. The only thing I've ever seen is that one opened up during the day, and I think they were just doing some solar observations or something like that. What they use that for now, one time I was doing another tour and I was over on the other side, and I see all these sort of nerdy, smart looking people walking by and going in there. And I finally stopped one and I said, well, what's going on in there? Does he speak English? He's like, of course. What's going on in there? It's like, we are having a conference on the CERN super collider, the one up in Switzerland, what to do for the next project for doing the CERN super collider. I'm like, oh my gosh, are you serious? He's like, yeah. I was like, wow, you must have some pretty smart people in there. Do you have any Nobel laureates? He's like, yes, as a matter of fact, we do. He goes, I consider myself pretty smart. When I walk into that room, I feel dumb. So it is still used. That's a true story. True story. So it is still used, and it's more for academic purposes. Sun's getting low. Look at the sky. You only get this, folks, on a virtually live tour. It's not the same on some video that you can stop and pause. This is actually happening. We got a beautiful valley right here. I come riding up here all the time. Birgit, you come riding up here all the time, don't you?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the shades of the color spectrum right now, from the blues to the yellows, reds, grays, greens. It's amazing. Lovely.
All right. I'm going to get moving on because I could sit here and talk about this all day, but we promised these people that we would only be out here for an hour. Besides, we're working. We want to go home.
Okay,
All right,
well,
I'm going to get going on the road.
yes, so the street that Bill is riding up now used to be a very important street because in the past, in the Middle Ages, this was the only street that connected a town by the name of Impruneta, which some of you might know because it's famous for terracotta, baked clay items, such as the big jars that are used for olive oil or for plant pots. So that street led from Impruneta to Florence. And in fact, the Del Gallo family made their wealth because they were asking for duty, for a toll. That was their job. That's how they became wealthy. They had the property, as we could see, just in back there on the corner. So that street now leads into Pian De Gelati, and Pian De Gelati translates into the plateau of the jesters. There's a reason for that. You can see how the jester theme is even used on this house, which used to be the house of a famous photographer in the early 1900s, who did photographs of Giacomo Puccini and other famous people of his time period. The house looks like a jester, or the clothing of a jester, because in Pian De Gelati, there actually used to be a theater where jesters and mimes and actors performed regularly. We're talking 13 and 1400s. So word got around, people came to watch them. And at that point, everybody was talking about, come to Pian De Gelati, to the plateau of the jesters. So the name stuck, and the little village ended up with that name. Pian De Gelati. Gelati are the jesters. So going along the street here, in a moment, Bill will stop at a house, which is very famous because it used to be the place where Galileo started living in 1632. He moved to this house, which became known as Il Gioiello, the jewel, in 1632 because his daughters were nuns in a convent just around the corner, and he definitely wanted to be close to his daughters. Originally, he had lived in another spot in Florence, in Bello Sguardo, beautiful view, which is another part of town. That's the entrance door to Galileo's villa. Galileo is originally from Pisa, where he was born in the year 1564. He studied as a boy in Florence, then he went to university in Pisa. He never actually graduated, but it was extremely well known how smart he was. So even without a university degree, he ended up being professor of mathematics at the University of Pisa and then in Padua. At the beginning of the 1600s, he became the court astronomer and the tutor for the Medici boys at the Medici court in Florence. And there he was able to do observations with a telescope that he had developed, in the sense that he ground lenses himself with which he could see further than anybody before him. With that scientific telescope, he was able to discover 4 of the moons of Jupiter. The moons are rotating around Jupiter. Galileo looked at it and was reminded of a miniature planetary system. So he realized that another scientist about 70 years before him, Copernicus, had been right on when he had published on his deathbed, smart enough to do it then and not before, that the Earth is not the center of the universe, but the sun is actually the center of the universe, and the planets rotate around the sun. Well, the trouble was, Galileo now adheres to that view. He publishes it, and he gets in serious trouble with the church in Rome, who still upheld that the Earth was the center of the universe, geocentric worldview, a fixed body that was surrounded by planets plus the sun that were rotating around it. So Galileo actually had to stand trial at the Inquisition in Rome. He had to go down there in 1633. He was gone for a whole year. Eventually, he recanted everything because he did not want to be burned at the stake. He gets sent back to Florence. He's sentenced to life under house arrest, and he passes the last few years in this house. He is able to continue his studies, thank goodness, because he was under the protection of the Medici. He then died in 1642 and is buried in the Church of the Holy Cross, Santa Croce. That's the story of Galileo Galilei, who lived in Il Gioiello. Bill, do you have something special there for us?
Yeah. Oh, I was calling you. I was like, Birgit, check it out. This is like one of my favorite restaurants right here. It's called Trattoria Omero.
Oh.
It's one of the oldest restaurants. So I've eaten here with my parents. I bet you Lauren's eaten here. Okay, I don't see anybody in here, but let's see if I can get in. Let's see if somebody's there that let me in. I want to show you the inside. I think they're closed. Oh, Stefano's here. Che culo, ragazzi. That means how lucky I am. Stefanone. Ciao. Allora ne hai un po' di gente, puoi salutare. This is Stefano, he runs the restaurant up here. Posso entrare? Oh, grazie mille. Look at that. I love Italians. They just let us come in. It's just, this is amazing. Here we are at their banco. Birgit, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, we can, yeah. Ristorante Omero.
Oh, okay. Phew. Don't tell me I went out. Yeah, okay, I hope I'm not zoning out here. Great cheeses, great.
Wait, Bill, now we're losing you.
Are you listening? How about this,
Okay,
if I keep going over
better.
here?
Yeah, better.
Okay, so I wish I had better, even better connection, because then I could go down into the wine cellar. Okay, I hope I don't, yeah, we're good here?
Yes, yeah, could still hear you. Mm-hmm.
Check out the view. Check out the view. There's the little garden. We're gonna go get some food down there. This is a great place. It really is. I'm not kidding. We were just over there. We were riding our bikes over there. All right, you know what? Yes, we're gonna go over time. So I apologize for that, because I'm just having too much fun doing this. Before we leave though, let's see if we can say hi to the cooks and what they're cooking. You got me, right?
Well, you're making us hungry, Bill, is
All
what
right.
you're doing.
Posso salutare i cuochi? Allora, dove sono i cuochi? Ragazzi, dove siete? I cuochi? Voglio sapere cosa c'è sul menù stasera. Va bene, dai, non ci sono. Stefano, grazie mille. Poi ho una sera a mangiare. Qui siamo. Vai, ciao, grazie mille, molto gentile. Oh, dessert. Oh, that looks great. Chocolate pie or whatever that is. Buono questo. Tutto fatto in casa, vero? Sì. Everything's homemade. Dai, andiamo. Ciao, grazie. Okie doke, we ready? Birgit, I'm back.
All right, yeah. I always find it amazing how proudly Italians like to show off their restaurant. They're so proud of their cuisine. They really never mind. It's amazing, because food has such a high status in this country. It's amazing. And you could tell what the difference is between myself and Bill. You know, I might be talking about the gates of paradise and he's focusing in on a piece of pastry, but that's probably why the combination worked. Okay.
Let's go see where Galileo's daughter's hung out.
All right, sounds great. Okay, so going around the corner here, we are riding down to a monastery. Actually, I should say it used to be a convent. Now it's a monastery because Carmelite fathers live in it now. But in the past, it was a convent where the two daughters of Galileo lived. He had three children, actually, two daughters and a son. The older daughter was Virginia. She was born in 1600. And then the second daughter is Livia. Both of them at the age of 16 decide to get their vows, and Galileo was able to put them both into the same convent. Why did he decide to put them in a convent in the first place? Because Galileo never married the mother of the two daughters. So they figured as illegitimate children, and especially illegitimate girls, were extremely hard to marry. So Galileo went to plan B, which meant for these young ladies that they ended up in a convent. This used to be a convent of the Claresses, St. Clare, the female part of the Poor Clares, exactly, the female part of the Franciscan order. And it was a convent where they basically lived as cloistered nuns. However, Galileo had a very intense relationship with his older daughter, who took on the name Maria Celeste. There are 124 letters that we have from Maria Celeste, from Virginia, that she wrote to her father. We don't have his responses. They were probably destroyed during the time period when he had to stand trial in Rome, so that he wouldn't get in more trouble, because there might have been proof in those letters against him. But we have her letters, and from her letters, we can tell how intense the relationship was, how profound it was. She would take care of his practical needs, such as mending his clothing. She would make sure that his property was taken care of when he was down and had to stand trial in Rome. She also spoiled him with delicacies like candied fruits, and provided a lot of psychological support, a lot of mental support, especially during the time period when he had to stand trial down in Rome. Once he returned in December of 1633, unfortunately, he only had the pleasure of a few more months with his older daughter, because she then passed away in March of 1634. She was very weak. She passed away from dysentery, and that really left Galileo heartbroken. Now Bill is going to ride down the street. He will end up eventually at a place called Le Piazzale, which is a wonderful bed and breakfast on a 4-star level. But before he gets there, he wants to show us another view, and he's going to elaborate a little bit more on the agriculture that is being practiced in Tuscany, which goes from olive oil to wines, of course. Tuscany is famous for Chianti wine, for example. And here we can see the view, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Bill. Riding between these.
You can't do that to me while I'm riding, and I have to ride no hands while I unmute. Okay?
Okay, sorry about
and I got wind. Ooh, that's okay. Look at that. Look at the fog. That's amazing. Look at that. Can you guys see that fog down there?
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. Except I don't think it's fog. I think it's smoke. But let's pretend it's fog. Chianti Classico, Ciclismo Classico. That's where you've all been. Those are the hills right over there where we're starting to ride. Some of you might have noticed when I put in a mailer to my group that this is the last one of the season, because it's getting too dark. Unless you guys want to wake up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, I'll still do it. Just ask. So, but yeah, it's getting too dark. It's got a beautiful moon up there, like a little sliver crescent moon. I don't know if you can see that. Let me just talk real quick. Birgit was talking about, Birgit was just talking about the agriculture. Look, this is pretty, huh? The light's so gorgeous. Hold on, I'm stuck behind a big olive tree right here. Let's see if I can do it. Okay, wait. Okay, talked about the villa, I talked about the farmhouse. You ready? Okay, gotta stay steady. But this is the villa. That's the villa. Look, it's nice. Okay. And that little gray guy, well, that's all a farmhouse. But how do I know it's a farmhouse? Well, because it's just not like the villa. And if you look closely, see those little red bricks in the window? That means that was the hayloft. That was where they would keep the hay. They would keep those bricks in the window without any glass or anything. And that way that would let the wind come through. That would let the wind pass through and dry out keep the hay dry. A little farmer area right here. Italy is very strict, Tuscan's very strict on their building laws. So you can't come in here, buy the land, build a big tower and say, yay, look at me. Nope, you can only have a certain amount of it dedicated to agriculture, whichever kind. I think you can take the trees out and put in grapevines. But the other thing that you have is, look, you have to leave a little bit of forest. You can't go and just cut everything down. You have to leave a little bit of forest as well. So to not go over time, I'm going to talk real quick about the olive trees. I don't know if all of you know that, but some of my people that came from me might not, unless they've done this tour before. But what they're going to go do is they're going to come out at the end of the month. They're going to put a net underneath the base of the tree. they're going to crawl into the tree and they're going to start to rake the leaves or rake the olives off and drop them into the net. Once they've got all the olives into the net, they gather them up, they put them in a bag or a box, and they take their net and they drag it over to the next tree. They start that process over again. So check it out. All of these trees that you see, and there's a whole bunch over there, and there's just everywhere, all these little silvery gray green, those are all going to be picked in theory by hand. They got their little tools and they've got their little electric stuff to help them out, but they're all going to be picked clean by hand. Once we've got all my olives, I'm going to take them up to the olive press guy, and I'm going to weigh them in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash them, I'm going to clean them, and then I'm going to put them into a crusher, and I'm going to crush them, pits and everything. Once I've got that mash, I'm going to take that mash, I'm going to put it into the press, pits and everything, put it into the press, press it, liquid comes out, oil and water. We separate the oil, we separate the solid from the liquid. The liquid goes into a centrifuge, we spin it, we separate the oil from the water. What comes out is the olive oil. So I got my little bucket, and I'm collecting my olive oil. What's going to happen is, the reason why I weighed them in is I'm going to ask Giuseppe, or whoever it was, Giuseppe is my guy that I use, and I'm going to say, when I get there with all my olives, I'm going to say, Giuseppe, what's the yield? How much olive oil is everybody getting? He's going to say, Bill, this year's been pretty good. They're getting about 18%. Normally, you know, you can get anywhere from 14, maybe even less, up to 20 if it's like really good. Then what's going to happen? So that's how I know how much I'm going to get. So if I've got 100 kilos of olives, I know that when I crush them and press them, I should get about 18 kilos. If it's 18%, 18 kilos of olive oil. So when it's coming out, that 18 kilos, I weigh it and I'm like, Giuseppe knows his stuff. I got my 18 kilos of my first press, cold press, extra virgin olive oil. First press is just that. First time they press that mash. Cold press doesn't mean they cool it down. Just means that they're not heating it up in order to extract more oils. And extra virgin refers to the level of acidity of the olive oil. Anything below a 1% level of acidity is considered extra virgin olive oil. So that's how you get your extra virgin olive oil. Now, that's really the only kind of olive oil that you can get, unless you come across some extra virgin olive oil, but that's very, very rare, because the extra virgin olive oil comes from, it's picked by the blind nuns that live deep into the Casentino hills. So it's really, really hard to get. And if you're not laughing, that was supposed to be a joke. There is no extra virgin olive oil. Thanks, Birgit, for giving me a chuckle. At least I know it went down. All right, we're off to the villa.
Okay, all righty. So while you're riding down the hill, I'm going to tell our guests what you can do with that olive oil. So a lot of Tuscans love to use the olive oil on a couple of dishes, which are very popular right now in the fall. They're both soups, which is rather surprising because normally a first course in Italy consists of a pasta dish, but in Tuscany, we have a couple of soups. So one of them is the Papal Pomodoro, which is a tomato bread soup that has the consistency of a mousse, let's say, something that you would feed a baby. So when it's prepared, you put a lot of basil in it, but then at the very moment when you eat it, that's when the dollop of olive oil goes on the top. And the other soup is called ribollita. Ribollita means reboiled, recooked. That refers to a minestrone soup, to a vegetable soup that you cook the night before. Then the next day you reheat it. And in that soup, by the way, the main ingredient is kale. Kale. Then whatever else you have at hand goes in there, potatoes and carrots and beans and peas, whatever it might be. So you cook your minestrone soup, and then the next day you reheat it, you reboil it, ribollita, and you add yesterday's bread, which now has become stale, so it softens up in the soup. So again, it's a vegetable and bread soup, ribollita, and it's best with some extra virgin olive oil, or extra virgin olive oil if you can find it. Okay, so here we are now at Le Piazzole. Bill is going to ring the bell. This is a property that goes back again to the 11th century originally, not what you see right there, but the original structure goes back to the 11th century, which was actually a tower which was a guard tower on the road between Florence and Siena, built by Fiorenza at the time. so that guardsmen could look over the countryside and make sure that they checked to see if any enemies were trying to attack the city of Florence. We are talking 11th century. So eventually then around this tower, the structure that we see now was begun in 1340 by a family who dealt in steel. They were called the acciaiuoli. Acciaio is the Italian word for steel, and acciaiuoli are the steel traders. So that's who built up the property, the manor house around the tower. Then for quite a long time, the property was held onto by the acciaioli until the 1470s. Then it changed hands several times. It was extended, stables were built, and farmhouses were added on, until the 1900s, when it became the property of the Caccioli family. There were actually a number of heirs who owned it all together, and because of that, the property had fallen into ruin. But then in 1993, Mr. Caccioli bought out all the other heirs, and he's the one who turned it into a 4-star luxury bed and breakfast. And there he is at the computer, looks like it. So aside from beautiful rooms, the villa has something very special that not very many villas have, and that is an Italian garden. And Bill is going to take us out into that garden and tell us what an Italian garden actually is.
Okay, am I off? Am I on? Okay, that was an excellent description, much better than I could have done, Birgit. So thanks for doing that. As I was pulling my bike into the courtyard there. So it is a hotel. It is a hotel, and this is their dining room. It's a little bit dark right now, but he loves like old antique type stuff. So he's got an old typewriter in here, if you can see that. So he's got some cool stuff in here. All right, let's get into the garden. Okay, so this is where I bring my groups. We do a little, it's called Florence and a Taste of Tuscany, a little single day tour. I give We Like Tuscany a little plug. And we bring them up here and they're very, very nice. We ride up a different way than you and I came up, or all of us came up. And we stop here for a little snack and have some of the wine that they make. We've got pomegranate trees over here, which I didn't get any this year because I will usually come and steal some from them, but I didn't do that this year. And here we are. Now there's two things. There's an Italian garden, and there's lots of people call it an Italian restaurant, Italian Renaissance garden. But I have a good garden friend that she's like, no, it's not Italian Renaissance garden. It's an Italian garden, and it might have been built in the Renaissance, which is when they kind of became popular. The other garden that you have is an English garden. So I'm going to turn around here and we're going to see this spectacular view. Okay, there you go. Take a screenshot. The Piazzole. Birgit, just going to ask, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but you didn't get any pictures. Did you get anything with those pictures that I sent you? Did we get any of those? The old ones? I mean, I know I'm sort of calling you out here a little bit. So if you did, great, but if not, this was completely overgrown. This was completely overgrown. And he came in and he refurbished the whole thing on it. The villa is the Renaissance villa. Renaissance, equilibrium, balance, what's the other word? Symmetry, okay, I always forget that one. And that's what the Renaissance part about it is. It's the Renaissance, it's the symmetry, it's the balance of it. Okay, real quick, I'm gonna go right over here and I just wanna show you that was a hayloft. Okay, so they can take the insides and they can change the insides. They cannot change the outside though. So that was the hayloft. Back to Italian garden. This is an Italian garden. It's green. It's got mostly green. It can have some color. He's got rose bushes out here along the walls. Okay, so it can have some color, but it's primarily all green with box hedges and the topiaries, which are the shaped things. It's, you know, box hedges. He's got these nice round balls in there, which are really nice. So this is an Italian garden. Green, symmetrical, set up, designed. and things like that, as opposed to an English garden. An English garden is going to have little paths wandering through it, and it's going to have bushes and trees and flowers, and these guys go with that, and it's very, very nice and everything. But that's the difference between an English garden and an Italian garden. Whenever I tell that, I always think like, you know what, actually it seems like it should be the other way around. It seems like the Italians would like, va bene, dai, you put the bush over there and make a tree, and yeah, we put a fruit tree over there, it looks so good. And the English are going to come along and they're going to say, no, I would like that in a perfectly straight line and squared with that other one. So, but anyways, it's not like that. The Italians do something straight, and there you go. Our really great, perfectly straight pencil. Sometimes, so someone's chiming in that they thought that too. So they call them pencil cypress, I think. Those are not trimmed to look like that. That's the way they grow naturally. And as we walk down, he doesn't have a maze here, but he does have these older statues. And his name, he's Rodolfo is his name, and they're out here, and I'm like, Rodolfo, what's up with these statues? And they come, they're operas. There's like the Jester down there, is La Divina Commedia. Is that it? Sorry, I'm not very up on my opera.
Well, from Italian comedy, those are characters that represent certain protagonists from Italian comedy.
So yes, so he told me that, and he's like, ma non sono così tanto vecchio. They're not all that old. They're like from 1800. They're only from the 1800s. So there you go. Puts it all in perspective, doesn't it? I think we nailed it. I think a little bit. I think we nailed it right on time. It's a quarter to seven. It's quarter to seven.
And from what I gather from the chat box, our guests seem to have really enjoyed the tour that we provided for them tonight. Yeah, so are you going to go up there and make yourself comfortable so that we can move on to the question and answers? And while you do that,
yes, ma'am.
Say a few closing words.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So,
go for it,
folks. Yeah. So we want to thank you for being with us tonight, and we trust that you enjoyed the areas that we were able to share with you of Florence and Tuscany. We also would like to thank Ciclismo Classico in particular for giving us the opportunity to present Florence and Tuscany to you. Now, if you like this tour, then you can go to our website, which is www.virtuallylivetours.com to find out about upcoming programs. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to have a tour this coming Wednesday at the same time, which will go through the city center of Florence. We do not charge an admission for our tours. However, we do rely on your generous contributions to be able to continue our work. If you have already made a contribution, then we really thank you for that. If you would like to make one, then you can do that on our website as well by clicking on the contribute button. So for the moment, we thank you. And now we're going to turn it over to questions and answers. And I already saw actually one question here. Somebody asked about the type of bread that is being used in the Ribollita soup. And I could tell that somebody with an Italian last name was able to answer that question. It is the saltless, typical Tuscan bread. So most of Tuscany actually does have saltless bread because for a long time it was Pisa, who was the only town that produced salt. So they charged an arm and a leg for it. So other towns only bought the salt in order to use it for their meats, to get them over the winter, to salt their meats, but certainly not where they could avoid it. So most other towns went without salt in their bread, and that is why most of Tuscany has saltless bread. And that's exactly the type of bread that goes into the Ribollita soup. Let's see what else we have here. Feel free to throw in your questions at this point. So, Bill, are you unmuted?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. I'm trying. There's a lot of chat in there. So, yeah, no, thank you for everybody that's talking about donations. We really, really, really appreciate that. That's really nice. Thank you, Lauren. Like Birgit said. And, you know, thank you so much. And I hope that you enjoyed it. And I hope that maybe we can do some other things for you as well. Birgit mentioned on Wednesday. Oh, we got a good cooking one on Friday. We're going to do the Old Trarno. We're going to return to the Old Trarno, and we're going to visit some artisans, some really cool artisans. And what else are we going to do? I think that's it, because then the sun goes down. But stay tuned. We will definitely know you out. Maria's been with us a few times. So is Kate. Same time on Wednesday and Friday. Yep, I will send stuff out to you.
And
So,
then,
come on,
look, we do have a question here.
Hit us up for some questions.
Is real estate expensive in the hills?
Yeah, especially now. And, well, right now it might be a little bit lower, but no, just kidding. Yes. That's actually a question for you, Birgit. I mean,
well,
you'd know a little bit more about that.
My answer for this would be, if you are in a spot like Piazzale Michelangelo, where we started out, there, I'd say just 50,000 euros on top just for the view. So up there, you probably pay approximately 5,000–6,000 euros per square meter, which is approximately 10 square feet. In other areas of town, if you live out by the airport, that might be down to 2,000. So most definitely expensive near Piazzale Michelangelo. In some cases, if the place has been refurbished, it might even be more expensive than living right in the town center, because you do have those beautiful views. And the same is true if you live in places like Pian De Gelati. So there you're a little bit further away from the city. So that might dampen the price a little bit. But again, some of these properties have awesome views over the countryside. So that makes up for the loss that you have being outside of town. So yes, the properties are quite expensive, at least as long as they have good views down into Florence. Okay,
hey,
I see more.
I was waving at Lauren. Hey, Lauren.
How many miles did you do today, Bill?
Oh, about 75. I don't know. It was hard on that e-bike. Yeah, it was wonderful.
Okay, what are the current masking rules in Florence? So the masking rules right now are masks everywhere, always. So as soon as you leave your house, you have to put the mask on, even when you're outside, and most definitely when you're inside. So until recently, it was where you had to put the mask on only inside, but now you have to put the mask on outside as well. And actually, Bill, what I would like to do here is, I see questions about masks on the trattoria doors. Okay, what I'm going to do real quick is I am going to cover your beautiful face with a screen that I prepared, so that our guests can get a little bit of information of the places that we visited, and also who sponsored this tour tonight, and our information as well. So I'm just going to put that up there.
Yes, yes. Yeah. You know, I have to just tell everybody, Birgit, thank you so much. It is a pleasure to do these tours with you, because you got my back, girl, every single time. I interrupt, I go the wrong way, and you just roll with the punches. So thank you, Birgit. Really, thanks a lot.
Well, you're most welcome. I wouldn't be able to do it without you, because you're the one who's filming, right? Who's going to all these places.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, do you see other questions? I can't see them with the screen up.
Sorry about that. I was looking. Okay, so my screen. Any other questions? Is it chilly yet? You know, I wear little long sleeve, little sort of like little t-shirty guy, and I got a little thin other thing as well. What else? And then I got my little pile, but I didn't put my pile out. But yeah, it's getting chilly. I turned the heat on once already. I already turned the heat on once. Yeah. Do you have a favorite ride? Can you read that, Birgit?
Okay, so I'm gonna just leave the screen up for just a moment, so I won't be able to read the chat box.
Oh, your screen. Okay. Oh,
yeah.
Pat, I can't. Sorry, I can't give away trade secrets. Maybe when we're at home, you can drop me an email. So I have to keep my trade secrets, right, Birgit?
Absolutely, yes.
You know, I'm like that. So, anyways, what else? What else would you like to know? What else came up? Let me see if I can pull some up. Okay, so gosh, Lauren, favorite ride. You know, I've been riding with this guy called Il Gemello, okay? And he's 77 years old and he used to race and stuff, but he's like amazing. It's like I drop him on hills a little bit if I want to, but if I'm on the flats and I'm kind of cranking out, he is like right behind me. It's amazing. So he has taken me on some really great rides. He's showed me not a few ones, but you know what's really good? I don't know what La Panoramica is, but it's called Sette Ponti. It's called Sette Ponti, and it's seven bridges. It's over near the Regello, which is really nice, which is east. Yeah, it's east of Florence. It's east of Florence. So that's one of my favorite rides. There's too many to name. You know, I just go into the Chianti. I go up to, sometimes I have a hard time pulling all these names. Nah, I'm not a big fan of Greve. So favorite bike shop is Conti. I go to Giuliano. Sorry, I'm still going to Giuliano. And stop hogging all the questions. Claire wants to know, will you cancel your virtual bike tours if it's raining? Well, you know, I do have some equipment that can't get wet. So you know what? Yeah, we probably will. It may, yeah, probably. It depends on how hard it's raining. Besides, if it's raining, there's not that much fun. It's not that much fun to see. So yes. I've done actually 2 in the rain already. I did one with talc and it was just sprinkling there, but it actually made the pavimento, the pavement, really nice. Remember that, Birgit? It made it all nice and shiny.
Yeah.
And then it started to rain on me the other day. So yeah, we'll do it. I mean, yeah, it just depends. Depends on how much it's raining. It's getting
Yeah, if
dark
it's
out, isn't it?
sprinkling, we can still do it, right?
Yeah.
And what we do usually is we look at the weather forecast, which here they give weather forecasts of a week, 10 days, and try to figure out when is a good time to do it. Sometimes we also put a rain date up on our website if we're not sure whether it might be raining or whether the weather is going to be nice. Yeah, but really it has never happened that we've had to cancel one, has it, this year?
Nope.
No.
We've been actually super lucky.
Yes.
Everyone we've done, it's like, remember when it was calling for rain like for 3 weeks straight? And I was just like, uh-oh. And then, you know, it's weather. So, and then it would always turn out to be pretty much beautiful and nice days. Yeah, we've been actually really, really fortunate. So, we should also tell them a little bit that we're going to do those night tours, right? Not just the 24th of December, which is going to be a Birgit special because she knows all this stuff about whatever it was you were telling me the other day.
It's going to be from the 5th to the 6th of December.
Oh, I thought it was the 20th. Oh, yeah.
No. 5th to the 6th. Good thing I'm there to keep you straight, okay?
I'm thinking about other things, man. I'm thinking about the tour that's coming up and getting as many people as possible. So Maria wants to know, how long have we been doing this? Well, I'm going to blow my own horn a little bit. We didn't have any work. And I sort of came up with this idea, riding my bike, of doing a virtually live tour. I threw around different names at first, but it was virtually a live tour. And it seemed like a really simple concept. And it's interesting. Nobody else has done it. So how long have I been doing it? I came up with it about a month after we got out of lockdown. Because at first I was okay, but then I would wake up in the morning and think like, oh my gosh, A, what am I going to do? And B, how am I going to make some money? And I just had to start thinking and scrambling and came up with this. And then I was lucky to get Birgit from some talc friends. And so how long have we been doing it? We've been doing a couple months, huh? September?
Well, really since July. We took a little summer break, but we did one in July,
that's right.
Then September, October, yes.
Yeah. So since July.
Yeah, okay. All right.
All right, so are we going to wrap this up?
How we try to present Florence to you, even though you cannot be here with us. You know how else can we do it? It's like Bill is saying, virtually live. So we hope that you have the feeling that you're here with us until you can come again, which hopefully is going to be next year. And then we will be here with open arms welcoming you on a bike ride or on a tour through Florence. Definitely. Yes.
Birgit works for a rather large travel company as well. So, and they're like shut down. So anyways, we don't need to talk about that. Everybody, thank you so much for coming. And I hope we see you back here at some point,
Yes,
right?
that would be wonderful.
Thanks, Glenn.
Yeah, thanks again, everybody, for joining us tonight. Take care.
Okay, and
Bye-bye.
Lauren, we will have a recording of this. I do have a recording of this, and I will send it to you, and you can pass that on you can put it on your website, or you can pass it on to all your guests. Va bene?
Va bene. Okay.
Unmute
tutti.
yourself. Oh, you can't unmute yourself, can you? Anyways, va bene. Ciao. Ciao tutti.
Okay. Ciao a tutti.
Buonanotte.
Ciao.
Ciao. Bye.